Hello, how's everyone? Did you enjoy your week? I hope you did. And happy Sabbath. May the Lord bless each one of you with His goodness, His love, His joy, and His peace. May He be with us and teach us this lesson in Numbers chapter 16. Tonight we're going to talk about problems in the Israelite camp that is caused by jealousy. Let's read verses 1 and 2 in Numbers 16. Korah, son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and certain Reubenites, Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, became insolent and rose up against Moses. With them were 250 Israelite men, well-known community leaders who had been appointed members of the council. When the Lord was appointing leadership among the Israelites to be high priests and priests, not everyone was happy with the decision, including the appointment of Moses and Aaron. The Lord knew everyone's heart. He even knew Korah had rebellious thought in his heart. Even though it was not obvious, he was secretly working against Moses. In a sense, God used Moses' sister Miriam as an example when she rebelled against her brother Moses. The Lord disciplined her as a warning to all who might be tempted to rebel against Moses. In this narrative, Korah was not satisfied with his position. He was connected with the service of the tabernacle, but he craved a higher position like Aaron and his sons. If you recall, in the priesthood, the high priest oversees the priests and the Levites. The high priest alone can enter the Holy of Holies compartment on the Day of Atonement. And the priest's responsibilities were to assist the high priest to maintain and care for the tabernacle. Besides duties inside the tabernacle, they also teach the laws of God, and the Levites assist the priest in transporting, setting up, and maintaining the tabernacle. But they cannot enter the tabernacle or touch the utensils and furniture that belongs to the tabernacle. God had established Moses as chief governor or administrator, and the priesthood was given to Aaron and his sons. Those were God's decisions. Perhaps Korah had forgotten. Korah determined to rebel against Moses so that he could change the order of things. And the ultimate objective is he wants to be elevated to the position of priesthood. You know, in us human beings, we often measure positions of which one is higher, which one is lower. But then if you look back in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, we are all part of God's body. Some of the hands, some of the feet, some of the heart, some of the head, some of the eyes and ears, right? And some of them are obscure, like inside our body, but all plays a part, right? But Korah didn't see it this way. While Korah rebelled, he didn't want to be alone in this rebellion, though. He wanted to solicit accomplices or alliances. He started to spread rumor about Moses, and he got the attention of Dathan and Abiram, the descendants of Reuben, and Reuben was the firstborn of Jacob. So they joined him in his rebellion. Perhaps Korah told them that, well, you guys, being the descendant of the eldest son of Jacob, you should have the chief authority instead of Moses and Aaron. Because Moses was a descendant of the third son of Jacob. Korah told them that Moses had usurped the leadership position that belonged to you guys. And these three devoted their time in scheming and planning this evil work. And they even influenced 250 princes to join them, who were also determined to have a share in the priesthood and government. God had chosen the Levites to serve him in the tabernacle because they followed God's law and didn't take part in worshiping the golden calf back at Sinai. To show that they were honored, Korah and the rest of the Levites were assigned to camp at the innermost circle around the tabernacle, which is closest to God. And the other tribes were at the next circle, and the rest of the people would camp at a distant, outermost circle surrounding the tabernacle. And whenever God tells them to move from one place to another, the Levites takes down the tabernacle and carries it, along with the ark, the candlestick, and the other sacred article of furniture, because God honored the Levites. But then they became ambitious for still higher office so that they might obtain greater influence with the people. Now let's read verse 3. They came as a group to oppose Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourself above the Lord's assembly?" Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and 250 princes were at first jealous at Moses and Aaron, and then the jealousy turned to envy, and envy turned to rebelliousness. They, the three of them, plus 250 princes, collaborate together to go against Moses' position as ruler of the people. In their mind, they imagined that Moses and Aaron's position were very enviable position. They thought any of them could fill this position as well as Moses and Aaron. And they continued to grumble and complain within themselves until they imagined in their mind that Moses and Aaron were not chosen by God, and it was they who put themselves in the leadership position. Korah and his accomplice said Moses and Aaron elevate themselves above God's people to take on the important priest and administrative duties so they could have authority over them. They complained that this position, meaning the high priest and priesthood responsibility, should not be conferred on their family alone. They said the rest of the people are just as holy and equally favored by God. Now verses 4 to 7. Then when Moses heard this, he fell face down. Then he said to Korah and all his followers, "In the morning the Lord will show who belongs to him and who is holy, and he will have that person come near him. The man he chooses, he will cause to come near him. You, Korah, and all your followers are to do this. Take censers, and tomorrow put burning coals and incense in them before the Lord. The man the Lord chooses will be the one who is holy. You Levites have gone too far." When Moses heard it, he fell on his face. Moses first prayed. Being a humble man, he asked God if his critics were right, whether he had done wrong, and whether God had something to teach him. He asked God what should be done in this situation. He certainly asked God to spare the nation and asked God to not allow this divisive man to bring permanent damage to the people of God. After that, Moses called upon Korah and his followers to appear before the Lord the next day together with Aaron, so that God himself might choose and decide who was in the right. They were to burn incense in order to test their claim that their holiness is on the same level as the anointed high priest and his sons. Verses 8 to 11. Moses also said to Korah, "Now listen, you Levites. Isn't it enough for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the rest of the Israelite community and brought you near himself to do the work at the Lord's tabernacle and to stand before the community and minister to them? He has brought you and all your fellow Levites near himself. But now you are trying to get the priesthood too. It is against the Lord that you and all your followers have banded together. Who is Aaron that you should grumble against him?" The Levites already enjoy the privilege in service. They shouldn't do what they are doing. They shouldn't seek the priesthood too. Moses told them that Aaron did not take on the position by himself. It was God who had placed him in the sacred office. So why should they complain against him? Now verses 12 to 14. Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they said, "We will not come. Isn't it enough that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? And now you also want to lord over us. Moreover, you haven't brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Do you want to treat these men like slaves? No, we will not come." Dathan and Abiram, these co-conspirators of Korah, would not even meet with Moses, nor answer his challenge. They chose to accuse Moses instead. They described Egypt as a land of milk and honey. They forgot they were slaves there, and they had suffered severely by the Egyptians' abuse. So much so that they cried out to God. They were looking at the past through rose-tinted glasses. Scientists and psychologists explain that people who frequently idealize the past and criticize the present would lead them to have this polarized or divisive attitude. And this is what's happening here. Dathan and Abiram created a past with nostalgia bias that puts leader like Moses in the worst possible light. They accused Moses of plotting to kill them, that he intended to bring them out in the wilderness to kill them there. And it doesn't make sense. Why would Moses take such trouble appearing before Pharaoh, chased by soldiers, deprived of food and water, endure their constant complaint to lead them out and then to kill them? They told Moses that he was acting like a prince so that he could lord over them. And they accused Moses, "You have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey." This shows that Dathan and Abiram had forgotten already that it was them, the people, who had refused to go into the promised land because they lost faith in God and became fearful of the reports about the giants. They even refused to show up when Moses called on them. This shows that Dathan and Abiram consider themselves under no authority. In a sense, they are saying loud and clear, "Moses, we have no respect for your authority. We will listen to God, but not to you. Your word means nothing to us." They accused Moses of taking advantage of the helplessness in Egypt, and he could lead them whenever, wherever he pleased. These disrespectful words they spoke before the entire congregation. and they refused to acknowledge the authority of Moses and Aaron. Moses was greatly disturbed at these unjust accusations. Verse 15. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept their offering. I have not taken so much as a donkey from them, nor have I wronged any of them." He appealed to God before the people that he had not taken advantage of his position for his own gain. He implored God to be his judge. Now Korah and his alliance, who aspire to the priesthood in the self-confidence, even took the censers and stood in the door and the tabernacle with Moses and Aaron. Korah had held on to his envy and rebellion until he deceived himself that he and the people were a very righteous people, and that Moses was a tyrannical ruler who kept nagging them to be holy when they were already holy. These rebellious ones flatter the people to believe that they were righteous, and that all the troubles came from Moses, their ruler, who was continually nagging them about their sins. At this point, the people were watching and they were listening, and they are being influenced by Korah and his friends. They were so convinced that they began to think if Korah could lead them, he would be so encouraging to them, and he would encourage them to depend on their own righteous acts instead of keep reminding them of their failures. They would have a very peaceful and prosperous journey. They thought for sure Korah would lead them forward to their destination and not back and forth in the wilderness. Verses 16 to 21. Moses said to Korah, "You and all your followers are to appear before the Lord tomorrow. You and they and Aaron, each man is to take his censer and put incense in it, 250 censers in all, and present it before the Lord. You and Aaron are to present your censers also." So each of them took his censer, put burning coals and incense in it, and stood with Moses and Aaron at the entrance to the tent of meeting. When Korah had gathered all his followers in opposition to them at the entrance to the tent of meeting, the glory of the Lord appeared to the entire assembly. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Separate yourselves from this assembly, so I can put an end to them at once." Full of confidence, gather all the congregation against Moses and Aaron at the entrance of the tabernacle. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto all of them, all the people. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourself from this assembly, so I can put an end to them at once." Now I'm going to read from verses 22 all the way to 35. But Moses and Aaron fell face down and cried out, "O God, the Lord who gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly when only one man sins?" Then the Lord said to Moses, "Say to the assembly, move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Moses got up and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He warned the assembly, "Move back from the tents of these wicked men. Do not touch anything belonging to them, or you will be swept away because of all their sins." So they moved away from the tent of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram had come out and were standing with their wives, children, and little ones at the entrance to their tents. And then Moses said, "This is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things, and that it was not my idea. If these men die a natural death and suffer the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about something totally new, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them, with everything that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the realm of the dead, then you will know that these men have treated the Lord with contempt. As soon as they finished saying this, the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households and all those associated with Korah, together with their possessions. They went down alive into the realm of the dead, with everything they owned. The earth closed over them, and they perished and were gone from the community. At their cries, all the Israelites around them fled, shouting, "The earth is going to swallow us too." And fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. The ground opened up and swallowed the instigators first. But the judgment of God was not yet finished. Fire came from the cloud glory and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. They were princes, that is, men generally of good judgment and of influence in the congregation, men of renown. They were highly esteemed, and the judgment had often been sought in difficult matters. The author Ellen G. White said, they were affected by a wrong influence and became envious, jealous, and rebellious. They were destroyed not with Korah, Dathan, and Abiram because they were not the first to start the rebellion. They were to observe the ending of these instigators and were given an opportunity to repent of their crime. But they did not, and the wrath of God came upon them and destroyed them also. We'll continue the rest of the chapter next week. You know, the spirit of jealousy and rebelliousness is not only limited to the Old Testament here. In the early church, in 3 John verses 9 to 10, John, the Apostle John wrote, "I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us." So in a sense, it is parallel to the event in Numbers chapter 16. In the early church, there were power struggle. Like Korah, Diotrephes wanted authority. He refused to submit to John's apostolic leadership. There was slander and exclusion. He spoke against the apostles and even expelled members who supported them. And he had spiritual arrogance. His attitude showed pride and self-promotion rather than humble service. I give you another example, a modern day example. Some of you might remember Jim Jones. He was a charismatic church leader in the 1950s to 70s. He started with some sincere work for civil rights and social justice, but over time he became obsessed with power and control. He rejected traditional church leadership, claiming he was the true prophet, even a godlike figure. He accused Christian leaders of hypocrisy, much like Korah accused Moses of exalting himself. Eventually, he led thousands into rebellion against all traditional Christian institutions. In 1978, the movement ended in mass death at Jonestown, Guyana. This also parallels to Numbers chapter 16, in that he was rebellion against God-ordained leadership. His pride masked as equality. Everyone is holy, Korah said. Just as Jones claimed his people didn't need God or scripture, just his voice. There were severe consequences. There was death. There was destruction. Moral lesson, as in number 16, rebellion born from jealousy often divides and damages, not uplifts. And number 16, not just an ancient history, it is a spiritual warning against jealousy, pride, and rebellion, especially within communities meant to reflect God's order, whether in ancient Israel, the early church, or today's congregation. Those who challenge God-appointed leadership out of envy often bring harm, not only to themselves, but to the entire body. Happy